right, so this is gonna be our next episode of True Wrestling Fans Discussions. Today, we're gonna be covering the career of Razor Ramon and his WWE run. I'm your host, Mike.
And I'm Frank. Let's jump right into
All
this.
right.
The first thing I actually want to bring up before we get into his career, if everybody knows that follows Razor Ramon in the WWE, even in WCW as well, that he had his own demons, like every wrestler. But his demons came from a certain incident, and it was on a couple of documentaries he done. Actually, I think he also mentioned it a little bit in if anybody's ever seen the resurrection of Jake the Snake Roberts, where Diamond Dallas Page helped the both of them out trying to get past their stuff. In 1983, he was charged with second-degree murder after shooting a man with his own gun in self-defense outside a nightclub. Due to the lack of evidence, he wasn't convicted. He was released, but still to this day, he's even said that haunted him, and I believe that, amongst maybe other things, played a great role in what had happened to him throughout his career.
Yeah, I think that
Drugs
was
and
a,
alcohol.
I think it had something to do with he was dating a girl and that was her ex-boyfriend. She had like a crazy ex-boyfriend, and I think he was bouncing at a strip club at the time. And I think
Yeah, it
she was a
was
stripper, I
yeah,
think.
nightclub in Orlando. Yeah,
Yeah. And you gotta understand too, back in the day, I think that happened like the early 80s. Is that when it
yeah, it was
happened?
80,
Early
83.
All
Yeah,
right. So PTSD and mental health wasn't as big as it is now. People didn't really
yeah. So
understand
they
it
couldn't
in the
find it. Yeah,
same
they didn't
way.
catch it.
Yeah, so it's very possible.
And like I said, I'm not saying that's the whole reason behind it. I'm sure he had other issues going on, but he till still to this day, he said that haunted him and plagued him for a good part of his career.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that definitely had an effect.
So, but in any event, let's begin. A lot of people don't know this, and actually, I didn't either, to be honest. In 1990, he actually received a tryout to go to WWE. He did a wrestling challenge match. Of course, it was never aired. He defeated Paul Roma, if that's telling you something, because Roma had been resurrected in 1990 with
Oh
Power and
wow.
Glory. But unfortunately, he didn't sign with them for whatever reason. They didn't call him back, or he just opted not to, because he was coming off of his AWA
Right.
run he was the tag champions with Kurt Hennig.
Hmm.
And if anybody has seen those videos, I mean, that boy was just
He was
jacked back
jacked. I was
then.
about to say when you said that, the
Yeah,
first thing I thought of was he was jacked, man. And a little side note, he is the one that got Kurt Hennig into weightlifting. So if
yeah,
you look at Kurt Hennig when he first came into WWE, he credits it. Scott Hall credits himself the really really good shape that Kurt Hennig was initially
yeah.
when he first got there. He was really slim and shape. He looked good.
I mean, Scott Hall kind of looked like Rick Rude's twin brother there in
Yeah.
AWA
And
because he had the hair, he had the
the
mustache going.
mustache. Yeah,
Yeah, he
he
had the
was
build. Man,
jacked.
they were good, man.
Yeah.
1992. Won't get too much into his WCW. We'll do that at another time. Just the main reason why he left from WCW and came over to WWE in 1992. If anybody remembers, he was known as the Diamond Stud and managed by Diamond Dallas Page, part of the Diamond Exchange, which
Hmm.
back then, if you remember, they actually at one point back then they had Hall and Nash, did nothing with
I did
them,
another one.
waited for WWE to make them a success, and then
Well,
they decided to take them.
they also
So
had Mean Mark Alice at one point too, the
exactly,
Undertaker. So
they had all these guys. They had Austin. I mean, they had
mhm.
everybody they needed. And the reason
Imagine
why
that.
he left, yeah, I know exactly. Imagine if the stardom was there back then. The reason for he left is he wanted to be part of the Dangerous Alliance run by Paul Heyman. Steve Austin was in it, Arn Anderson, Rick Rude. They didn't want to go to that direction with him, and he was kind of tired of being the Diamond Stud. So at this point, his contract was up and said, "All right, I'm out of here." So he went and later that month he joined the WWE. He goes and this is a funny story. And when I read this, I literally laughed. I had a tear in my eye when he goes to Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon to discuss his gimmick. He comes off as Scarface doing all the skits, and they loved it. Now the funny thing about this is, and I don't know if I want to believe this, but they never even heard of nor seen the movie, and they thought he was a pure genius with what he came with. And he
Coming
just
up with
looked
the
at him and
character.
go, yeah, I came up with all of this.
Yeah,
I can't believe a guy like Vince McMahon didn't hear the movie Scarface. I'm sorry.
I mean it's
It's
he
just
might have heard of it, but maybe he didn't see it. I mean Vince was so caught up with the business and obsessed with the business that he was running that maybe he just didn't. It's the movie that he didn't watch. It's possible. I didn't.
yeah,
I mean, I was much younger. I mean, I think he came in '92. I was probably Summer of '92 is when I think he showed up. So I
Yeah.
was probably 10, almost 11. I hadn't seen Scarface yet. Like I had seen the commercial on TV.
Mhm.
Like, I used to give it on. If you remember WPIX channel 11,
Yeah.
I used to always get, but I never actually watched the movie. So when I saw Razor Ramon, I just thought, oh man, this guy's cool. I had no idea.
I mean, the vignettes he came out with in the Cadillac.
I had a bunch of them.
Oh yeah, they did the whole summer was full of vignettes.
Hmm.
And what's funny is his first feud, although it never went to pay per view, was the guy that actually helped him create the name. He went to Tito Santana and he's like, hey man, I need a something that'll click, something that'll roll off my tongue. And he said, well, something with an R maybe. He goes, well, how
Yeah,
about Razor Ramon?
that's right. You know what's funny about the Cadillac thing? The Cadillac vignette he used to do. I used to always do that. I had it recorded on VHS, and I remember I memorized it. And I used to always impersonate, like in school and stuff like that, with my friends on the block. I used to always do that vignette, I just thought it
It
was
was
cool, yeah.
awesome.
Mhm.
It was all it really for that time. Those vignettes are pretty cool.
You know which one I love? My favorite one is the one where you're sitting down at the restaurant,
Yes, I remember that
and he's
one.
like, I think the table wasn't clean or something happened with the table. He's like, you want me, what? You want me to clean this? You want me to bust your
And
table for you? And then
he took out the
so
bus boy.
he
Yeah.
throws everything off the table. Then he steals
Did
the
he
guy's
smack the
fruit.
bus boy or something?
I remember he stole the fruit from a guy at the fruit market. He goes
Yeah,
and takes the fruit and
yeah. Those were the good ones, and that was actually around the time he started. Then after that, they incorporated that he would say, Tito Santana, I'll see you soon."
mhm.
So that was his first feud coming in. He debuted August 8th, 1992. It was just something to bring him in, but they never, a couple of house shows maybe, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
never went to pay per view. His first, he came in on fire because his first major pay per view, if everybody remembers, was teaming with Ric Flair
Yeah.
against the Macho Man Randy Savage and Mr. Perfect at Survivor Series, where he got the pay per view loss with Savage and Perfect won, but it was a good way for him to come in to the WWE. So from there, now in 1993, he's establishing himself. He catches a break because we've discussed this before, where the original main event for the Rumble was supposed to be Bret Hart versus the Ultimate Warrior. Since it never happened because of the circumstances that happened with the Warrior, Razor Ramon gets the title shot.
That's right.
And as a kid, I was like, okay, I was a little dumbfounded as to why they gave it to him, but then I was like, well, maybe they want all their major guys in the Rumble to go for the title, and so they're just giving this guy a title shot. And then Bret Hart was also known as a fighting champion, as giving guys like Virgil, Skinner, the lower guys a title shot. So I thought it was kind of cool. And then he was pretty impressive in that match. I mean, just him and Bret, they pulled it off.
Yeah, going into that match, Razor was actually hurt. He had a knee injury. I think I
Hmm.
messed his knee up in like a house show or something like that. So credit to both of them that they were able to still put on a very, very good match. Even though he was hampered. And that injury ends up hampering him for a few months.
Yeah.
But it was a really good match, and he got a pretty good push right out the gate. Vince had a lot of confidence in him. Vince liked him a lot. He liked the look, he liked his character. He thought he was basically the total package, and he was very good. He was very good.
Yeah. And like I said, unfortunately, he didn't beat Bret Hart. Bret Hart kept the championship. But, like you said, it was a good way to establish him. He went to WrestleMania. Now, this is where I don't agree with WrestleMania 9. They throw him in a garbage match with Bob Backlund. Now, granted, Backlund is a WWE former WWE champion, but still, I mean, you just came off the WWE Championship match at the Rumble, and now I'm just going to throw you in a
Wrestling Bob
mid-card
Backlund.
match.
Yeah.
Yeah, in what was like a 3-minute squash for Razor to win.
But it was also because his knee was still messed up. That's
That
why.
too.
That's why they had to go quick.
So, and what was funny was if you remember, at WrestleMania 9, the fans were actually cheering him despite being a
Mhm.
heel. I guess because they didn't really know, the younger generation fans didn't really know who Backlund was. So they were cheering Razor, and and he was still trying to establish himself as the heel. Now his career took a little hitch, if you remember this, on Monday Night Raw back in May 17th, 1993, when the upset of the century,
Yeah.
when he lost to the 1-2-3 Kid,
1, 2, 3 kid. Yeah.
who every week was coming out as the Kamikaze Kid, the Kid,
Lightning. I think it was the Lightning Kid.
Lightning Kid. It was
Yeah.
every week. This kid was just coming out getting his butt kicked. and he jumps off, and I'll never forget this match. He jumps off the top rope with a moonsault and pins Razor Ramon. And that's where he got, because I think in that match he was just called the Kid. And from there, he got his name, the 1, 2, 3 Kid. And every time Razor came out after that, the fans are cheering 1, 2, 3. Oh my God. It was a good way for Sean Waltman to come in because they were friends at the time. And, but it was funny. It was, like I said, it was the shock of the century on Monday Night Raw. And, he began a feud with him after that carried through to King of the Ring, but no pay-per-view match. Now you remember at the King of the Ring, he fought once again Bret Hart.
When did they? Okay, was that before they had that rematch where he stole the money? 1, 2, 3 Kid ran out. Or was that after the King of the Ring? You remember? Remember Razor and him?
Remember Razor's money?
Yeah, remember they had the rematch. He had the bag of money.
I think that was after. Oh yeah. He offered him the money if you got in the back of the ring. That was after the King of the Ring.
Right, and it was after the King of the Ring. Okay.
Yeah, it was right after. I remember him coming out with the bag. He goes, "Hey Chico, you got the come on out." And he
misses the spot. Remember, he goes on the top rope to try to jump, and he slips and he hits his head really, really hard on the mat. And then he eventually just takes the money and he ran. And the reason for that, he had a concussion. And Scott Hall said, just take the money and run. Because he knew that he was hurt. He saw that he was wobbling.
Yeah, he wasn't going to be able to continue.
Yeah.
So, that was a pretty good skit that they did. Yeah, that was right after he lost to Bret at the King of the Ring.
I thought it was before for some reason. Okay.
I think it was like the week after.
Yeah, it was all around that same summer. It was the summer,
yeah. So at the event, actually at the King of the Ring, started the process of the fan favorite change due to the respect that he was getting from the fans. So they really couldn't keep him anymore. Because if you remember, I think it was after that match he started gaining respect for him because of everything that he was doing. He wasn't backing down, and the storyline. He was still going at him despite the beatings. And what's funny is this is where the whole thing where he officially turned fan favorite when he started with the $1 Million Man. And $1 Million, I think the storyline went, the $1 Million Man tried to buy him.
I think he wanted him to clean his toilets or something like that.
Yes, that's what it was. And he wasn't having it.
Yeah.
And that actually culminated at SummerSlam, where that turned out to be DiBiase's final match. Him and Razor Ramon. Now Razor's a fan favorite.
Something happened.
Razor beats him.
Something happened too. I think it was supposed to be 1, 2, 3 Kid and Razor Ramon versus Money Inc. And I think it had something to do with DiBiase that he didn't want to do it. DiBiase wanted just one solo match to leave. His back was messed up, and he had a lot of personal problems at home. He was going through a divorce or something like that. And
I do remember it was a Monday Night Raw at the end of July where DiBiase and IRS were out there and they were challenging Razor Ramon, and then the next week they had announced that it was just going to be Razor and DiBiase.
Yeah.
So I think he wanted that one farewell individual match before he headed out. Yeah.
And you know what? Just go back just a little while before. He got into that feud with Bret when he beat up Owen. I think it was on one of these WWF shows. I forgot which one.
He choked him out on Superstars.
Yeah, there you go. And that's how he got into that.
He said, "You the Rocket, Owen."
Yeah.
You brother, the little Bret.
And then Big Brother had to beat him up because they weren't doing anything with Owen. That's another story.
And then even the interview they did the night before the Rumble at the Arco Arena, was pretty good. He's like, "Get some sleep, Chico. I see you tomorrow."
Yeah, it was good.
It was classic.
So he finishes off
DiBiase's career at SummerSlam. Now October 4th, 1993. Now, if you remember this time, this was the storyline where now they stripped Shawn Michaels of the Intercontinental Championship. Storyline was lack of defending, off the storyline, supposedly failed steroid test.
Right. Which
still to this day, Shawn's like, I've taken stuff here and there, but I've never taken steroids. So then again, real quick, everybody knows Vince told him, send back the belt. He said, I'm not sending the belt. Belt's with me. You want it, come and get it.
Come and get it. Well, his quote was, something along the lines of, I don't want to misquote him, but it was something to the effect of, you're over there in your palatial estate in Connecticut. I'm over here in San Antonio, Texas. If you want the belt, come down to San Antonio and take it.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember because it was even in his documentary, Triumph, the Heartbreaking Triumph,
Yeah.
where he said, "I'm not sending the belt. You want to come and get it."
Come and get it. Yeah.
So, and Vince was mad about that, but then it clicked in his head later on what he could do with that. So, on October 4th, 1993, they had a battle royal to where
I just not to cut you off. This is the first time that Sean refuses to drop the belt in the ring. All right, continue.
Okay.
one of many.
Yes. I'm not denying it. But the stipulation for this battle royal was the final two men in the ring would face the following week on Raw for the vacated Intercontinental Championship. The battle royal came down to Razor Ramon and Rick Martel. So now the next week, these two guys are going to go at it for the Intercontinental Championship. Razor beats Rick Martel, becomes the Intercontinental Champion after being there just a little over a year. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's good.
You know, some guys in there went their whole career, never got a single title.
Yeah.
So for him, I mean, Vince really did think highly of him. And this led to when Shawn Michaels returned from the suspension, this led to the feud with Shawn over who the real Intercontinental Champion was. Because Shawn would come out with the belt, look at Razor and go, "You're an imposter, and I'm the real champion." And this went from, I think it was, he returned, what was it, it was right before Survivor Series. Yeah, because he replaced Jerry Lawler against Bret Hart it was Shawn Michaels and the Knights.
Right.
So it was right around Survivor Series, right after it, that he started with Razor. And this ran all the way through to WrestleMania. And we all know what happened there. Mm-hmm. The classic WrestleMania 10 ladder match where, according to DiBiase, and I'll say it again, Shawn went and had a match with a ladder, which is just bogus. Shawn used the ladder in the ladder match because if you look at it, Razor just was equally involved in that ladder.
Both of them deserve the credit. Yeah, they deserve credit for it.
I don't understand the comment, but in any event, Razor Ramon climbs the ladder successfully, keeps the Intercontinental Championship against Shawn Michaels. So he loses the Intercontinental title now, April 30th, 1994, to Diesel after Shawn Michaels interfered.
On Superstars.
Yes.
Which was kind of rare for a title change to happen on Super. It would happen every once in a while, but
mostly in the late 80s they did that.
Yeah, they did it.
Not at this point.
Not at that point. No, they didn't. They didn't at all. And I remember that. And I remember seeing they used to say like a week before, they'll be like, and next week for the Intercontinental Championship, Razor versus Shawn. Even though it was pre-taped, they would not Razor versus Shawn, Razor versus Diesel. I remember saying, "Oh man, I couldn't wait." And there was no internet back then, so you didn't know who won. And I remember just being shocked when Diesel beat him. I think he took the padding off the turnbuckle, right? Was it Shawn that removed the padding, and then they threw Razor in, and I guess he hit his back, and then
he hit his back, came in, and he got jackknife powerbombed, and that was where they established Diesel now.
All right, do you remember? Because it was shortly before that. Do you remember when or was it after that when Razor was chasing Shawn, and then Diesel came behind the curtain and knocked him out? Do you remember that?
I think that was on Raw.
If I'm
not mistaken. Yeah. Because he came down to the ring, chased him back through, and Diesel cold-cocked him.
Yeah, I think it was before that, obviously, but I don't remember what when exactly happened. That was cool though.
It was
Diesel had the deadly right. Remember, Diesel had the deadly right hand.
Oh yeah, definitely. So now Diesel's the Intercontinental Champion. This leads up to and he went to the King of the Ring with the Intercontinental Championship as well.
Diesel, when he fought Bret, it was
title for title. Well, it wasn't
title. It wasn't title.
Champion versus champion.
Yeah.
So now we go to SummerSlam.
Well, no. Remember, Razor fought. Who did he fight? He fought in the King of the Ring.
My bad. Yeah, I'm totally jumping King of the Ring.
I thought he was gonna win too.
They had him in the finals.
Yeah.
And it was Anvil that came down.
Right.
That was kind of like, "Hey, buddy, you okay? You okay?" And wham, clotheslines him.
Because I thought.
I kind of figured it was going to happen.
I didn't know if Owen or him. I knew it was one of them, but I thought that maybe Razor, they took the IC title off of him to give him a main event push for the world title, and I thought that was going to springboard him. But then they went the other way. They went with Owen. winning, but it was fun.
which I think was the better.
Yeah, no, it was good.
The better route,
Yeah.
but I thought that was cool. He made it all the way to the finals against Owen. Unfortunately, the Anvil gets involved, which I mean, you could tell that was coming. And a Hart member down there, and then Owen wins the King of the Ring. But this sets up. Now they go to SummerSlam, and Diesel's got to defend the Intercontinental Championship against Razor.
Yep.
And he wins his second title at SummerSlam against Diesel. And if you remember who was at ringside with him,
Walter Payton.
Yep, Old Sweetness was there to make sure Shawn Michaels stayed in line. Yeah, because it was in Chicago.
Yeah. He was chasing around Shawn.
Yep. So now he keeps the title off Diesel. He goes through the rest of 1994 with it. You know, remember he had his team at Survivor Series. Shawn Michaels' team completely fell apart.
The bad guys.
It was at one time it was 4 against 1 or 5 against 1 because Diesel just eliminated everybody on Razor's team.
Yeah.
And he was tired, and Shawn finally gets it. Now I know Shawn was injured at this point, but they still put him in the match because he spent most of the time on ringside. He never really got in the ring, only to accidentally super kick Diesel when Razor got out of the way. And now Diesel's chasing him down the ramp. The whole team. It was Owen. It was Jeff Jarrett. I think it was the Anvil too. That was part of that team, and they were chasing him down. They're all they're trying to get the thing ready. They all get counted out. Razor Ramon's the sole survivor. I thought that was like either you got a time restraint or this was poorly wrote.
Right.
But in any event, Razor's the sole survivor of Survivor Series. He goes into the 1995 Royal Rumble now against a very, very, very newcomer. I mean, this guy, Jeff Jarrett, was only there, 2 months?
Yeah, he hadn't been there very long.
And he gets the Intercontinental title shot against Razor Ramon. Now, the one thing I've noticed about Razor, if you ever look at the pattern, he never competed in a Royal Rumble. Never. Always had a match at that. He had 93, 94, 95, 96. Yeah, never competed in the Royal Rumble. I always thought that was weird. But he was always the Intercontinental Champion at the time the Rumble came around, except for 93 when he got the title shot. But, that's an interesting side note. He's one of maybe a handful that maybe never even competed in it.
Wow.
So, in controversial fashion, Jarrett won by countout against Razor. Jarrett wins the match, but Razor still keeps the belt. Jarrett does his shenanigans on the microphone, telling him, "You can't beat me. We need to start this match over." Razor happens to get in the ring. They restart the match.
Yeah.
Big mistake, Razor. Jarrett wins the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah. Razor was hurt, right? That was the story. I think it's
yes.
He hurt his leg or something. I think he was outside the ring, and then
he had a minor injury that kept him out a little bit, but it wasn't long because he lost the attempt again at WrestleMania 11, but he gained back the Intercontinental Championship
That was WrestleMania 11. That was when the 1, 2, 3 kid had like that ninja suit on.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And we've already gone over that.
Yeah.
The WrestleMania that shall not be mentioned.
Yeah.
He won his third Intercontinental Championship May 19th, 1995.
The three-peat.
At a house show, yes.
The first at
wrestler
that point,
to win 3 Intercontinental Championships. We had the tag team. We had the WWE champion. Now we've got the Intercontinental champion. And that's pretty impressive considering the group that he was in at that time, being 2-time with Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Mr. Perfect, Ultimate Warrior. So that was pretty impressive to go to supersede them with the Intercontinental Championship.
At that point, yeah, absolutely.
And to me, I always thought he was the perfect Intercontinental Champion. Like there should have been nobody else to hold the belt during his reign there. So unfortunately, we keep going here. 3 days later, after he wins it for the third time, he lost it.
I remember being so pissed, and that was a house show. He lost it at a house show, right? Or was
he won it at a house show.
He wins it at a house show,
and then he lost it on Raw.
And I remember being so pissed about that because I remember I found out he just won the title. Oh, I got the 3-peat, and then he loses it. I'm like, what? To Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett. Let me say something about Jeff Jarrett. Okay.
Go ahead. You're not gonna get no argument from me.
He broke 6,000 guitars, never drew a dime.
How did I know you were gonna say that?
Not only that,
I just knew it.
Not only that, Jeff Jarrett's in the WWE Hall of Fame. Okay.
Sure.
Now, what you need to ask yourself, and I've said this in the group, you need to ask yourself this: if you ask yourself, does Jeff Jarrett belong in the Hall of Fame? And the follow-up question is, have you ever met a Jeff Jarrett fan in your life? And there's your answer.
Well, I can answer both of those for you. If it's for what he did with WWE, the answer is no. Have I met a WWE fan, Jeff Jarrett fan? Absolutely not.
No, they don't exist.
If they're basing it off of what he did in WCW and TNA, which to me I felt like those were handed to him, because the only reason why he left in '99 to go to WCW was they promised to put the title on him. Yeah. For what reason, I don't know. And they labeled him the chosen one. Why, I don't know. Jim Ross has been quoted many times as saying he was never a main eventer. Yeah. And I got to agree. And then TNA gets started up by his dad, Jerry Jarrett. And who's the champion? Jeff Jarrett. So, I mean, yeah.
Right. Oh, my God. Slap nuts. Okay, anyway. That's enough of Jeff Jarrett. But I just had to say that.
Actually, it's not enough of Jeff Jarrett because he's still in this conversation.
All right, so.
Now, Razor hits a minor setback. June 9th, he injured his ribs in a ladder match against Jarrett. See, right. I told you we weren't done with Slapnuts. Yeah. And at this time, he had formed a team with Savio. Because if anybody remembers, go ahead.
No, that actually was a legit injury because I remember he was supposed to be at the King of the Ring.
Yes,
and Savio takes his place.
Yes, he did.
It was a legit injury. Yeah.
Yeah, he replaced him. Matter of fact, Savio, rather than just putting Savio into his spot, and when we do the King of the Ring review, I'll mention this again. On the free-for-all before the pay-per-view, Savio actually fought IRS for that final vacated spot that Razor had. And then and Razor did have his midsection taped, and he was at ringside with Savio for the entire pay-per-view. And it was funny to see the old Quang actually almost get to the mountaintop in his first pay-per-view. I thought it was really cool. Mm-hmm. And he was a talented performer.
He was.
I just think when they put him in the Nation and then Los Barricos, they lost him.
He was good, and he got that break because of Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. They were good friends. They knew each other. Yeah. I guess they had wrestled in other territories together. They were good friends. Yeah, and he pushed for him.
So now from there, they actually when he came back, they teamed together at the In Your House after the King of the Ring against Men on a Mission, Mo and now King Mabel. Oh, God help us. The one guy we can say worse than Jarrett. And also they teamed together to go for the Tag Team Championship, if you remember, against Owen Hart and Yokozuna in August.
Yeah.
So they I saw them going a little bit with maybe they're going to move Razor out. Well, they moved Razor out of the Intercontinental title picture at this point because now Shawn Michaels was the champion.
Right, and he's the babyface.
Yeah, but they did. Gorilla Monsoon, the acting president at the time when Jack Tunney had stepped down, had signed the second ladder match for SummerSlam, Razor and Shawn.
Well, no.
Not as good as the first.
Well, it was actually supposed to be, if you remember, Psycho Sid versus Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam, and they changed it to Razor versus Shawn. They actually announced Sid versus Shawn, but I think either Sid got injured or he just went AWOL again.
I think he went AWOL at that time because
he comes back. He comes back.
He comes back on and off over.
He probably went to go play baseball.
I don't know what.
Have you ever heard that story about Sid? How he loved playing baseball and he would like leave wrestling for a little while. I want to go play baseball. Whatever.
It was always weird because after he had the feud with Diesel after WrestleMania, he's there for like a second. He leaves, comes back again at the end of '95, and then he's there through part of '96. Then he's gone again.
Then he's gone. Yeah, I don't know.
Then he's back in July '96 for one pay-per-view. Then he's gone again. Then all of a sudden he's back as the #1 contender at Survivor Series.
But I'm glad we ended up getting Shawn versus Razor, and even though it was good.
Better.
Yeah, because we had already seen. I think we had already seen Sid versus
Shawn. They did it on a Monday Night Raw, and it was also a tag team in your house.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so much you can do with the two of them. I'm glad they left it.
And then we saw it. We saw it later on.
Title matches, yeah.
'96, So
I mean, Shawn kicked him as his partner at the Wild Card Survivor Series match. Shawn didn't care. He's like,
that wild card. That wild card was kind of weird, right?
It was when you had the mix.
Right, they just threw everybody in there and just
Razor had to be teamed with what was it, Dean Douglas?
I think so. Yeah,
he wound up smacking him anyway.
Oh,
and Sean and Ahmed were together. I think it was with Owen and Sid, or Bulldog and Sid, or something like that. Because Bulldog and Owen were on opposite sides.
I understand the concept. You're doing something new and
you're trying something.
Yeah.
It's with the roster you have. You got to do anything right now for the ratings, because the ratings were below.
It was bad. 95 was a bad year.
95 was extremely bad.
But they go to
mainly for keeping back your main eventers, because Diesel was the title.
So they go to that SummerSlam match, which wasn't as good as the first one. But it was still good. It's hard to top. But also they were under a lot of restrictions. They went into the office with Vince. They kept trying. Vince and Sean and Razor kept trying to convince Vince to let them use the ladder as a weapon, but Vince had gotten a lot of complaints from like the networks and stuff like that, and in the papers, that it was too violent. This is supposed to be for kids, and using the ladder, it's just too much of a violent thing. So he was like, no, you have to find a way around it. So they got very innovative with how they used the ladder in that match. So
I don't understand why. If there was on a Monday Night Raw where you'd see more kids actually watching it on the USA Network, I can understand his concern. But on the pay-per-view, you just throw in this content, maybe, slightly yada yada for,
but remember,
or whatever.
They also have a lot of corporate sponsors too at the same time, and they weren't playing, so it was what it was.
And it wasn't the Attitude Era yet.
Right.
Where you could set somebody on fire and it's like, oh, cool. Or the USA Network going, why didn't you do that?
Or I don't know if I should. Katie Vick, that's all I'm gonna say.
Oh boy!
Anyway.
Oh, I thought you were going to mention the DX press conference when they used USA's thing against them.
Right,
And Sean and Triple H got called in the office, and he's like, "Oh, we're getting fired for sure." And he goes, "They loved it."
Yeah.
I thought that was, and when we get to DX, that I'll definitely bring that up, because that was one of the best skits they ever did. They used USA's grievances against them. It was classic.
Different time.
Yeah. So we move along here to Razor Ramon wins his 4th Intercontinental Championship. Now, before we get to how he did that, the match was originally supposed to be Shawn Michaels defending the Intercontinental Championship against Dean Douglas. Due to Shawn's mouth and the fact that his group wasn't with him, it was only, Sean Waltman was with them.
It was Bulldog and Sean Waltman were with him.
Yeah, because the other guys were at another separate venue.
Another town, they were in another town.
This is up in Buffalo. They were there.
Or Syracuse. I think it was Syracuse.
Syracuse, yes, sorry.
Close enough.
Same.
New York State.
New York State, South Canada, same thing. If you're not in the 5 boroughs, it's not New York.
Yeah.
So anyway, Shawn Michaels has to forfeit the title due to his incapacity. He's not medically cleared. Whatever. He didn't lose a smile. He couldn't defend the championship.
Listen,
I know where you're going.
Shawn hated Dean Douglas. All right.
I don't blame him. I wasn't a fan really of at least that character.
And Razor the entire clique hated Dean Douglas. There was no way that Shawn was putting him over. So yeah, he did get that beating. How bad the beating was, I don't know. Only he knows. But
only he knows, and only if he was really medically uncleared.
But again, Shawn refuses to drop the belt in the ring. This is number 2. All right, continue.
Well, we're gonna have to do an episode on how many times Shawn is.
Yeah, probably.
Well, that's a good hour right there. Oh my God, I can name at least 3 more.
And here's what I didn't understand. He drops it to Dean Douglas, right? Mm-hmm. Not that he doesn't drop it. I'm sorry. He forfeits
the title.
He forfeits the title, and then Dean grabs it, and he's
grabs it right out,
excited. So now he's officially the Intercontinental Champion.
I understand.
Okay. Why didn't they just have a vacant title, and the winner of this match is the new Intercontinental? Because that would actually
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Why didn't they just have the match between the two who they were feuding, and have it for the vacated title, and the winner is the champion? Yeah. Why give it to him and automatically it goes down on the
11 minutes. He had the title for 11 minutes, I think it was.
11 minutes. And it goes down on the record book as Shawn Michaels forfeiting to Dean, so technically he lost to him. So if he didn't want to drop the title to him, newsflash, you already did. Then if that was the case, Vince found a way to do it.
But how about this? At that point, they all hated Dean Douglas. Vince already gave up on him, right? Maybe we'll talk about this another time. How I don't feel like it was Dean Douglas's fault. I think he got a bad gimmick, and then
Well,
unfortunately,
look where he came from in
yeah,
ECW
they just
to the hardcore guy, and even before that, what he was in WCW and
yeah.
WWE. But he comes from ECW, and they put this gimmick on him rather than him just being Shane Douglas.
It was a
If
garbage
it was
gimmick.
Shane Douglas, it would have been. I think it would have been better.
He had a lot of heat, and then he had a lot of heat with the Click. It was never going to work for all the factors we just mentioned. That being said, you hate the guy,
and putting him in the mix didn't help either.
So you hate the guy, and you're like, oh yeah, we'll give him the belt, and then 11 minutes later he'll lose the belt. I mean, that's just like, why are you gonna do that to the guy? He's been through enough, like why are you gonna? It's like almost like a slap in the face. Like, oh yeah, here's the IC title. 11 minutes later, gone. Goodbye.
Just kidding.
Yeah, just kidding.
Psych.
So, right. So then
it's like dangling it over. Oh, you got to be quicker.
Right. Yeah. So Razor gets the title.
Razor wins
in a garbage match.
Yes, but however, he's still now four-time Intercontinental Champion.
I was happy. I was a Razor fan, so I was happy.
I was glad he got the title back. To be honest, I didn't want. When I'm watching the In Your House, when Dean Douglas is the champion, and they hadn't announced that Razor was going to be the challenger.
No. I remember I watched this live.
Yeah, I'm like, please don't tell me this guy is just going to walk away with the title. We're not going to get a fight here.
That's what I thought was going to happen. Yeah.
I thought that was trash, and I really wasn't a fan. I didn't get the In Your House as much. I didn't get the original live. I didn't get it again until Shawn Michaels was the challenger for the Intercontinental title against Jarrett, because I wanted to see that.
That's when they were giving away the houses, right? Then for a little while they would give away a house. I don't know whether they actually did it or didn't.
But they probably gave it to one of their relatives.
Right.
But I mean, the good thing was, even though it was a 2-hour thing, it was only like $15-$20 back then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Maybe even cheaper than that. Who knows? I wasn't paying the bill.
I mean, I went to my friend Peter's house. He had the hot box.
Yeah,
so I still watch some of that stuff for free.
We can say that now.
Yeah,
it's fine. I think the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
But yeah, stupid me. I paid for it. I should have went with you. So in any event, now he goes into 1996 with the Intercontinental Championship against another guy that's only been there 3 months. And another guy, I don't understand why they had to repackage him when he could have just been Dustin Rhodes, like he was in WCW. Now he's Goldust.
Which, okay. Eventually the character did work.
It took a while. And I remember I didn't like the character at first. I think it was 97 when it finally clicked.
Yeah.
I mean, at least with the fans.
Right. It worked. But it took a while. It was a very controversial.
Yes.
At the time, that character. And Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, was not happy about working with him because of, the way the character was, whatever.
All the interviews he did, and he's all over him.
Yeah, it was.
And then Mr. Perfect got involved in it. He gave him a gold teddy bear. You remember he gave that to Razor?
Yeah, I remember the teddy
Razor wanted to flip on Perfect.
He hated it. Razor hated it. He hated it. Yeah, he didn't.
And to add insult to injury, he loses the Intercontinental Championship at the Rumble to Goldust.
And I think that was Marlena's debut, or like one of her first appearances.
Yeah, because Goldust had 2 pay-per-views prior to that where he beat Bam Bam Bigelow at the Survivor Series, and Marty Jannetty was his first.
Oh, Jesus.
So he was, exactly. So he was going in kind of undefeated, and man, okay. But he didn't lose it. He didn't lose it clean.
No, he didn't.
Because if you remember, the 1-2-3 kid who had turned on him, gone to the $1 Million Corporation, had interfered in the match.
He turned on him in a tag match, right? They were fighting. Yes. They were fighting for the tag titles, and they lost.
Yes.
And then he turned.
Then Razor, I think, fought Psycho Sid at the In Your House with 1-2-3 kid at ringside. I remember something to that effect. And then, of course, they went, to make it even worse, at the In Your House in February, he has a crybaby match.
I rember that with the
1-2-3 kid. They put a
baby bottle.
Baby bottle and a diaper. I'm like, are you kidding me? You guys couldn't have a street fight? Because speaking of street fights, I'm going to get to that in a minute. What should have been and didn't. But if you were already in the process of making that for WrestleMania, why couldn't these guys just knock each other out in February? I don't understand that. So, but any event, he beats the 1-2-3 kid, and now the original plan for WrestleMania 12 was for Razor Ramon to fight Goldust for the Intercontinental Championship in a Miami street fight.
That's right.
In Anaheim. Now, unfortunately, Razor Ramon was suspended 6 weeks due to drug use.
Yes.
Okay.
But here's the thing about that. The timing is very suspicious
Yes, it is.
because Razor had just given his notice.
Mm-hmm.
He gives his notice and then he fails this test. So I suspect.
Now, here's a question I have for you. And answer truthfully. You're going into a match as a challenger. You've picked stipulation, Miami street fight.
Mhm.
Do you want to? Does he lose that match to Goldust?
No way. But it might not have been for the title. Maybe I don't remember.
No, it was. It was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be at that point.
Yep, it was supposed to be a rematch for the IC title.
Okay,
Fight, yeah.
Okay. So then you know what happens is they had those plans and then the notice, and then they're like,
and then it all goes.
They're like, well, he can't go over now, but then so he's not going to lose the Miami street fight. And I think they were also being petty. You got to remember too, he didn't even tell Vince to his face that he was leaving. He sent them some sort of a fax or something like that.
Yeah.
He sent them a letter. And then he saw Vince later on the road, and Vince was livid, and they had some sort of a meeting, and he was like, you should have just given me a chance to match the offer, and he didn't even do it to his face.
I mean, he claims that in various documentaries leading up, especially on the Monday Night War documentary, that he didn't want to leave. Kevin Nash says the same thing, but I don't believe it. We didn't want to leave, but the money was there and the lesser dates, blah, blah, blah. You basically, pardon the expression, Hall and Nash pretty much crapped on the guy when he gave him everything.
Well, okay.
But I mean,
there's so many,
for the more money and the less dates.
There's so many sides to this.
Who's not going to pass that up?
Right. There's so many sides to this. Look at it from Vince's perspective, right? Scott Hall was floundering in WCW. He comes to WWE and Vince repackages him, and I mean, it was ultimately Scott Hall's character, but the point is he gave him the push, right? And he made him.
Yeah.
And now he's just like, all right, I'm out of here. So I get why Vince.
And Nash did the same thing.
And Scott Hall wanted $1 million, and Vince wasn't giving him $1 million because I think Scott Hall's last year in WWF, I think he made less than $300,000. Because that's a huge pay jump.
Back then,
And he didn't. Yeah. His first year in because I looked at the contracts. His first year in WCW, he didn't make $1 million. It wasn't until following years. They also had
when they put the stipulation in there that if anybody came in, any celebrity, any musician that came in got paid the top dollar, they automatically got bumped up.
But either way, it was more than what he was getting, and it was less dates, with the promise of eventually making more money, which he did. So I understand why he left. I get it, but I think the way that he went about it,
I think it was wrong.
Was kind of unprofessional,
Yeah.
And I think Nash doesn't Nash end up using the fax machine in the WWF office to sign his WCW contract, and then he faxed it. He's the one. The funny thing is, so he's the one who gave Nash the idea to go over there. He told him, "Look, this is what they're giving me," and then that's when Nash, he does what he does, and he gets his contract. And then, I mean, people say that Hogan was the first big move, right?
Yeah.
WCW. But when you look at it, the one who changed the industry was Scott Hall. I feel like it was Scott Hall that changed because when
the domino effect started at that point.
It was the domino effect because Hogan left in '94. But once Scott Hall did that in '96, and he brought Nash with him, and then they made the NWO, that changed the business forever. So it was Scott Hall was the one that, when you think about it, you could credit him for changing the industry.
And for a split second, Nash wasn't going to do it until Scott Hall said, "But hey, look at this," and he shows him the contract, and he's like, "Well, shit, I signed." Yeah. And I think it was on the rumor is that he did it at the fax machine before Monday Night Raw.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wow. Mm-hmm. But that's Kevin Nash. I mean, that's the guy. He's in the business for his family. Because to be quite honest, you didn't know about his family for years because he kept it quiet. He was very personal.
Yeah.
And he would do the most dumb things in WCW just to get paid. Like, we'll give you $500,000 to run this. And he would. I remember him saying, he goes, "I don't want to do it." "Well, we'll give you $500,000 to do it." He goes, "Okay.
All right.
Does it really have to make sense then?
Right.
I'll just write this ridiculous card and off we go. But I'm getting paid."
He's getting paid. Yeah.
So
he was a mercenary.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So
he's also the guy that charges $200 for an autograph.
Yeah. Well,
I'll never get his.
He's got to eat.
Yeah. What is he eating? Filet mignon?
Yeah, maybe.
Truffles. So in any event, now Razor Ramon is out of WrestleMania. It's replaced with Roddy Piper.
I know. Razor was on the poster too. That was the funny thing.
Yes, he was.
On the poster.
And I don't think they did they edit it at all? I don't think so.
They just left him. It was too late. It was too far down the road in the marketing.
It was very close to Mania, and that's when they did the quick storyline with Piper being the active commissioner because the acting president because Gorilla Monsoon took time off. The storyline, Vader injured him, and so now Piper's got the thing going with Goldust, and so they do their Hollywood backlot Barrow. Now this is where Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. This is where you know he's on the way out when the losing streak begins, because if you also notice the pattern was there for Diesel too. He returned in April, right after WrestleMania, and was on the In Your House for April, and they put him up against Vader.
Yeah.
And if you watch that match, that wasn't Razor Ramon. That was a squash match. That was a punishment match.
Well, he also, I mean, he kind of shaved a little. He buzzed his beard down really low, so he looked a little different. But you know what I noticed that was funny is that, I mean, Razor got some power moves though on him though. He did get some moves on him. But I always wondered if Scott Hall just went into business for himself when he kicked out of the Vader bomb, because he kicks out of the Vader bomb.
I think he did because when they were starting to establish Vader, nobody kicked out.
And they were establishing him as this monster destroyer, and Vince kept the whole. If you watch that match, he keeps on saying Mastodon. Oh my God, this big rhino, this Mastodon, which is what he wanted to call him until Jim Cornette said that's ridiculous. His name is Vader.
Yeah, don't call him Mastodon.
I think he might have gone into business for himself, maybe when he kicked out of the.
It's possible, considering he was on the way out.
Right, he didn't care at that point. He didn't care
because he's already been told, okay, you're going to lose this match.
Right, and
Diesel's already, like I said, with the losing streaks, Diesel is in the title match. But I can understand that because that's the final feud with Shawn Michaels, his best friend, who they broke up again. So Shawn Michaels, and you remember when Shawn beat him, he pointed at him and said, and like this to the entrance, like, get the hell out of here.
He poses and he says, like Hogan, and he says, you want to go where the big boys play or something like that.
He's just like, get the hell out of here.
Get out of here. Yeah. But they were good friends. They were just.
Oh yeah. Now this is where it gets even more interesting because this is like what they call breaking the fourth wall. The curtain call.
Yeah.
It was right after this. This was literally their final house show appearance. There was no more after this. This was their obligation because you remember during Razor's match after he lost, the fans are telling him you sold out.
Yeah.
And he's standing there going, come on, it's for the money, give me a break and whatever. He's pandering to the crowd, but I mean, really, he's like, probably, I don't care.
And they cut. Now, I've only read this because I wasn't there, obviously, and I don't even think. I wish I was. Right. I don't even think that some of this footage is even available online. I could be wrong, and he wrestled Triple H that night, and Triple H, he just lets him pedigree him. Like, he throws his arms up for him to pedigree him. And then after the match, he got on the mic and he said he was going to say goodbye to the bad guy. And he said, say goodbye. And they cut off his mic. That's what I read.
I think it did happen because at that point he had if you notice, when he stopped talking to the crowd in his one hand, when he's doing the money sign, he had the microphone in his hand.
Yeah. He was saying something to the crowd, tell this guy to pay me or something like that. Tell this guy to pay me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then the main event at the Garden that night was the cage match with Shawn and Diesel. Shawn beats him. And the only way you're going to see this is by that famous fan-made film.
Right.
Thank you to whoever you are.
Yeah.
Because this is, even to this day, is famous.
Been burned. WWE
no, it's not.
Burned the footage. I
have a copy. Yeah. Trust me, if that ever happened, I have a copy. So now you hear the fans going, "Wait a minute, that's Razor Ramon. That's Hunter Hurst Helmsley."
Yeah.
What? And then they're all hugging up. What is this? Now, Shawn supposedly went to Vince with this and said, "Hey, I want to do this," and Vince McMahon said, "Okay." Now he knew it was wrong, and he knew what the boys in the back would think. He said, "If it's important," it was after the fact when he asked them, "Is that what you wanted?"
Yeah.
I hope that's you got what you wanted. Yeah. If it was important to you, then it's important to me. However, now with Hall and Nash exiting. And Shawn Michaels can't be punished for it because he's the champion.
Because he's the champion, which
and if they do punish him, it's a possibility that he could jump ship too. They were always worried about that through '96.
I don't know.
Because his contract was up at some point between '96 and '97 before he re-signed. So they were always worried that if they did punish him and maybe take the title off of him, would he defect to WCW? Now, the one guy that was the low man on the totem pole in the clique, where at that point, I don't think they would have cared if he left anyway, was Hunter Hurst Helmsley.
Right.
So Helmsley, who everybody knows, if you don't, I'm going to tell you right now, he was scheduled to win the 1996 King of the Ring. Thank God he didn't, because we got something better.
Right.
So for the whole year, he took his licks and they punished him in whatever form they could, hog pen matches, all this nonsense. So they punished him because they couldn't punish Shawn Michaels. Because I truly believe this. I think Vince McMahon was afraid that possibly Shawn was going to jump. And if he went to WCW and joined the NWO, quite frankly, we could still be watching WCW to this day.
Yeah, I mean,
that's my belief.
Sean,
I mean, be wrong.
Sean always got away with, for whatever reason. Sean always got away with murder.
Because he's the top man that Vince didn't want to do.
But the business was my whole thing was the business, and I'm not blaming him. When he was the champion, the business was bad. So I don't understand how this guy got away with. He always got away with murder, always, and it's not like the business was so great because of him. It wasn't.
He did what he could with what he had, despite the rise of WCW with the NWO coming on. No. And everybody was jumping ship. I mean, the man did what he could, just like Diesel did the year prior.
Yeah, I mean,
only the Diesel thing could have been fixed. You know, that was their decision to hold back two big main eventers at the time. 1996 wasn't really Shawn Michaels' issue. He did what he could, but his arrogance and his attitude, as Pat Patterson has so said, so frequently about him, I mean, just the way he was just didn't help.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, ultimately, Razor, he ends up leaving. We know what happens when he goes to WCW. They did have plans for him to become the champion. That's what
WWE.
Yeah, Bruce Pritchard, and Bruce Pritchard says that had he stuck around longer, he probably would have eventually gotten the belt because he had everything. It's just that they went. What happened? Because you got to think about it. They were really pushing Razor before they were pushing Shawn.
Yeah.
Right. And then they made the pivot because they saw how Shawn was getting over, and then Vince started to respect a lot more what Shawn was doing in the ring. So I think Shawn kind of put, almost not intentionally, but kind of put the kibosh on Razor going up to that next level. I think this might be a controversial statement. I think you're definitely going to disagree with this, but I'm going to say this. There's a guy, Triple H, right? 1,000-time champion, right? What is he, like 1,000-time?
12
champion.
No, 14.
No, what? 14,000, whatever.
14
same difference. To me,
there's another guy out there that's two more than him, buddy. Just to let you know, Mr. Cena.
No, but
come on.
But
go ahead.
Triple H, to me, did not have more charisma than Scott Hall.
Now, at which point are we talking here, though?
I'm not talking about
back during that era.
Because okay, Razor was kind of almost like a one-dimensional character to a degree, but you saw what he did in WCW with Scott Hall. There's no doubt that Scott Hall on the mic was cool as hell, and he was over and he had a lot of charisma. Okay, I don't think he had more charisma than Scott Hall in the ring. I don't think he was better than Scott Hall. Scott Hall was a great wrestler. I'm not saying that he was better than Triple H. I'm saying they're at the same level. And I bring this up to say this. If Triple H became champion, Scott Hall could have eventually become champion, because I don't think there was anything that Triple H did better than Scott Hall, Razor Ramon. I really don't think there was anything better. I think that he just stuck it around and Scott Hall left and he went to WCW. And once he went to WCW, he became the same thing, not the same thing as Nash, but he became a mercenary. Like, he just wanted to get paid, and you want to lose? Can you job to this guy? Okay, I'll job. He didn't care. And then his demons caught up with him. But I think that's why when we did the Uncrowned Champions, I didn't put Razor in there just because I felt like to a degree he kind of self-destructed, similar to how the Bulldog self-destructed. Yeah. But I think that Scott Hall, if he definitely could have been a champion, he could have been a top guy.
I agree with that. I mean, I would have put Razor Ramon in there if he had stayed. If he was there another 4 years, let's say up until 2000,
and they called it.
A couple years. and he wasn't still given the opportunity through the Attitude Era, then I would have his name in the Uncrowned Champions episode of 1990. Definitely, I would have. But in that short time, he was the best mid card guy of the 90s. And but yeah, given if he was able to stay, oh yeah, he definitely could have been it. And
because
I mean, Scott Hall even got his one shot at the WCW title. If you remember, he won World War III, but then they botched it the next year. So I mean, that was just WCW.
Because I just feel like he had no weaknesses. Like there was nothing like if you look at him, he was one of the guys he could work with the small guys and make them look good, and then he could work with the big guys and make them look good. Because he wasn't a big guy, but he wasn't a small guy. About 6'6", about 6'6", right?
270.
So like he was I think he was a little bit bigger than The Rock. He was like maybe not. He didn't weigh as much, but I think he was maybe a little even taller than The Rock. He was, So
now there's a match I would have wanted to see.
So he could
back then anyway.
So Scott Hall can have a guy he could have a match with a guy like Bret Hart or even the 1-2-3 Kid, but then he can have a match with Diesel and tear the house down. He had no weaknesses. He was the total package, man. And it's kind of a shame that maybe because of himself and just because the money and he wanted to get paid and WCW was a disaster. So he was one of the best, man. He was one of the best for sure.
And speaking of working with the big guys, there was even back in 1992 when he first got there, a couple of house shows where, and I actually saw one of them. He fought the Undertaker.
Yeah,
and he even looked good in that match.
Yeah,
Undertaker, they both worked good together.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he did work good with, like you said, with the small guys and the big guys. Yeah,
anybody got matched with anybody. All right, so that pretty much sums up Razor Ramon, aka Scott Hall's career in the WWF. You guys, let us know what you think about his career. Any favorite Scott Hall moments? What do we got coming up next?
We're the next one. We're actually gonna continue with him. It's gonna be the NWO. That's gonna be an interesting one. That's gonna be. Everybody better get a dry erase board on this one because you're gonna need it for who's in, who's out, who's in this one, who's in that one. I mean, even I got confused.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's gonna be a wild ride, everybody. So you're gonna have to bear with us. Yeah. In that 4-part journey.
All right, guys. So make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care.